Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to focus on an essential concept in Python, variable scope. Well, what is scope? In Python, scope refers to the area of a program where a variable is recognized, or in simple words, where you can use it. Some variables are available only inside a function. Some are available throughout the entire program. Knowing the scope helps us organize code properly and avoid bugs. Python has four main types of scope. 1. Local scope. 2. Enclosing scope. 3. Global scope. 4. Built-in scope. We also have two special keywords, global and non-local, that affect scope. Variables declared inside a function belong to the local scope. They only exist inside that function. Enclosing scope applies to nested functions, a function inside another function. Variables in the outer function can be accessed by the inner one. A variable is in the global scope if it's defined outside of all functions. You can use global variables from anywhere in your program, inside functions, loops, or just plain code. They live throughout the entire file from top to bottom. Python comes with a set of built-in functions and constants, things like print, len, type, range, abs, and many more. These names are available everywhere in your code because they belong to the built-in scope. So if you call print, Python knows what that means because it's part of the built-in scope. Now understand these variable scopes with examples. Let's open PyCharm, right-click on your project folder, choose new and then select Python file. Let's name it variable scope demo. Now let's begin with local scope. A variable is said to be in the local scope when it is defined inside a function. This variable is only accessible within that function. As soon as the function finishes running, the variable disappears. It doesn't exist outside. If you try to print it outside the function, you will get an error. To understand better, let's create an example. Let's define a simple function to demonstrate this. Let's type def my underscore function, open and close brackets, colon. This line defines a function named my function. Now inside the function, let's create a variable. Indented line, local underscore variable equals, within double quotes, I am local. Then print it, print function, within brackets, local underscore variable. This will print the value of the variable inside the function. Now outside the function, we call it. We type my underscore function, open and close brackets. Then outside the function, we try to print the variable again. We type print function, within brackets, local underscore variable. Now let's run the program and see what happens. Here's the output. I am local. And then an error. Python says, name error, local variable is not defined. Why is that? Because local variable was created inside the function, and that's the only place where it exists. The moment the function ends, that variable disappears. It's like creating a temporary note inside a box, and once the box is closed, the note is gone. So here's the key point. If you define a variable inside a function, it has local scope. That means it exists only inside that function. You can access it while the function is running, but you cannot use it outside the function. Now, if you need a variable to be used outside, you have to either return it from the function or define it outside the function altogether. Now, let's see enclosing scope in Python. When a variable is defined in the outer function, it's not local to the inner function, but it's still accessible inside it. Python will look outward to the enclosing function to find that variable. Let's understand this clearly with an example. We'll define a function called outer function. Let's type def outer underscore function, open and close brackets. Inside this function, let's create a variable. Let's type enclosing underscore variable equals, within double quotes, I am enclosing. Now, inside this outer function, we define another function. Type def inner underscore function, open and close brackets, colon. This is a nested function, a function defined inside another function. Inside this inner function, we type print function, within brackets, enclosing underscore variable. This line tries to print the variable from the outer function. Now below that, still inside the outer function, we call the inner one. We type inner underscore function, open and close brackets. Finally, outside the outer function, we type outer underscore function, open and close brackets. Let's now run the program and see what happens. The output is I am enclosing, and there's no error. Why? Because even though the variable enclosing variable was defined in the outer function, the inner function could still access it. That's what enclosing scope means. Python didn't find the variable inside inner function, so it looked one level up in the function that surrounds it and found it there. This allows the inner function to use variables from its enclosing environment without redefining them. Now, let's see the global scope in Python. This is a very important concept, especially when working with variables that need to be accessed from anywhere in your program. So far, we've seen local scope, where a variable is only accessible inside a function. We've also seen enclosing scope, where an inner function can access variables from its outer function. Now, let's talk about variables that are defined outside of all functions. These are called global variables, and they have global scope. That means they can be used anywhere in your program, including inside your functions. Let's understand this with a clear example. We start by defining a variable outside of any function. Let's type global underscore variable equals within double quotes I am global. This line creates a global variable. It exists in the top level scope of your program. Now let's define a function. We type def my underscore function, open and close brackets, colon. Inside this function, we want to access the global variable, indented line, print function, within brackets, global underscore variable. Even though we didn't define this variable inside the function, Python can still find it because it has global scope. Now outside the function, we call it. Type my underscore function, open and close brackets. And finally, let's print the global variable again. We type print function within brackets global underscore variable. Let's now run the program and observe what happens. Here's the output. I am global. I am global. What does this mean? It means the variable was accessible inside the function and it was accessible outside the function too. That's exactly what global scope means. So when a variable is defined at the top level, not inside any function, it becomes global and it can be used throughout your program. Now let's quickly see the built-in scope. This one is actually the most global scope of all. It contains all the functions and names that are built directly into Python. So you can use them anytime, anywhere, without needing to define or import anything. Let me explain. Have you ever used functions like print or len or range? You didn't define them, right? But still, Python knows exactly what they mean. Why? Because these are part of Python's built-in scope. Let's take one of the simplest examples, the len function. This is a built-in function that tells you the length of a string, a list, or any collection. Let's write a quick line of code to see it in action. Let's type variable result equals len of the string, hello world, then print that result, print result. This will return the total number of characters in the string, including spaces and punctuation. Let's now run the program and see what happens. The output is 13. Why? Because the phrase hello world has 13 characters. That includes the letters, the comma, the space, and the exclamation mark. We never defined the len function ourselves, we just used it, because Python provides it by default through its built-in scope. There are hundreds of such built-in functions in Python, like print, type, input, extra, int, max, min, and many more. They are always available, and they form the top level of Python's scope hierarchy. So to summarize, Python variables live in different places. Depending on where they are defined, you've got local, enclosing, global, and built-in scopes. Understanding scope helps you write better code and avoid surprises when debugging. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture.